Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharin Stories. I'm your host, Peaks, with my two beautiful co-hosts, Sarah States and the real St. Paul. This is not a therapy session. You will not find mental health professionals here, nor are we a substitute for said people. We are just regular people sharing and hopefully normalizing our stories with mental health. Today, we have an all-American / model gracing us with his presence, a man who just got done cycling from Salt Lake City to Moab, a 300-plus mile trek to symbolize his mental health journey and to raise money and awareness for others who suffer as well. On top of that, he is currently working with Hope for the Day, an organization which encourages proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. He has been a big advocate for vocalizing his own story, and after getting a little glimpse, I can say I'm thoroughly excited to hear a little more in depth into that story. So let's give him a warm welcome and a thank you for coming on, Kevin Hubsmith. I got that right?
You got it right.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Kevin, very much. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I had a chance to kind of read a little bit about you, and I'm really excited to have you on today.
What did you read? I'm curious. And where did you read it?
So there's a little on your links in your Instagram. Where I found it, where I found a little bit of information, and then kind of just going through some of those posts and the other websites you kind of are working with. I was able to see at least a minor bit of your story and kind of where it started and kind of where you're at now. And I'm really excited to hear about this 76-day wilderness retreat.
That was an adventure.
That sounds like an adventure, and it sounds like also a huge part of your story. So
yes,
if it's all right with you, Kevin, I'm just going to let you take it away for a little bit.
Sure.
And kind of give us the background of where these problems came from, or this illness.
Sure. Yeah. So going back, I'm from Minnesota. I'm not sure if the real St. Paul.
No, he's not from St. Paul. He's not from St. Paul, Minnesota. That's for sure.
Okay. All right.
That's funny.
Anyway, I grew up in Minnesota, and my family has actually always kind of had a history of mental health, and it was kind of passed down from my father's side and his mother, and so on. And in high school, I first kind of got my first symptoms, and didn't really know what was going on, but I was a lot more blue. I mean, you could say that I was very shy, which now I'm like the opposite of shy. I'm like outgoing. If any of you guys saw my Instagram, I posted a naked photo of myself on a bike. Like I'm not shy anymore.
I did see that. I was I was a little curious about that one as well.
I'll get to that one.
Perfect.
So I went on some medications, and this was probably 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really think that the medications really helped me very much. I maybe was on the wrong ones, just didn't really want to really believe in them. Didn't really want to get help because I didn't really want to admit that I had something going on. I was afraid to tell anybody what was going on. It was pretty scary to be an all-American athletic kid in high school with mental health issues. So I really didn't tell anybody. I kept it all myself. And that ended up leading to some self-harm my senior year of high school. So I don't know if you can really see them, but I've actually got some, can't really see the light, but I've got some nice scars on my top of my arm. And that came from kind of a cry for help, I guess. I didn't really realize what I was doing at the time, but looking back, it was pretty clearly a cry for help. And that actually took me out of school, and I finished my senior year outside of my regular high school, which was kind of a big eye-opening to me, and kind of made me realize, like, all right, this is something kind of real. Kind of made my whole family realize this is something we need to deal with. Fast forward, got done with high school, went to college in Boston. Spent my first semester there, which was a spring semester. Came back for the summer, and my parents just kind of felt that I wasn't really myself. I was a little funky, I guess they would say. So speaking to them now, they told me they sent me back to school the following year, but kind of felt a little unsure about it because the way that I was acting all summer. And I was just kind of down all summer. I was pretty depressed. Got to school and actually had a manic phase. Kind of just was off the charts. Wasn't sleeping, wasn't doing anything. I was just 10 out of 10, very manic. And they were actually able to see that from afar, just on phone calls, emails, spending, just the stuff I was doing there. Like, this is not normal. So after 1 week at school, they actually flew out to Boston and told me I'm going to a wilderness therapy program, which leads to my 76 days in the woods. So I was given two options, and I actually chose a program called Open Sky, which is more of an Eastern-based. It uses like a little bit of meditation and yoga to kind of get you through it all and kind of let you sort itself out. But the point of the 76 days, or there is no set amount of time, but I just spent 76 days, was kind of to allow you to take away all of the outside influences. Anything else that's really kind of potentially you're helping you struggle. So they put you in the woods and they kind of give you 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts, and a tent and a sleeping bag and say, this is what you have from now on, this is what you carry, and this is your day to day. And everybody's there for a different amount of time. It's kind of deterrent on when you're ready to leave. I ended up being one of the longer cases because I'm a little stubborn, and I was a challenge. They all told me I was a challenge. I was very good at putting on a fake face. I was very good at showing them that, oh, I'm good, and they almost let me go very early, and then realized he's full of it. He needs to go through this. So 76 days later, I got out of the wilderness, and I guess I was a new person. It was an experience that I really kind of wish everybody got to experience, because I was closer to myself than I've ever been in my entire life. I kind of knew things about myself that I never would have been able to understand without it. Yeah, it was really a turnaround in my life. It really gave me, like, I consider it like the toolbox of mental health issues for myself. Kind of gives you all of the remedies to deal with yourself. And you have the experience to sit in the woods and kind of figure that out. And then post-woods, I stayed in Salt Lake and went to an aftercare program where you kind of apply those tools in the real world, because obviously things are different than the woods. And I went back to school in Utah and then got picked up for modeling, moved to New York, finished school here, and now I'm here.
All right, bringing us off to it. I love it. Is there anything you want to touch on before I just start shooting questions your way?
Shoot questions. I'll see you got.
They're going to come. First of all, I want to know a little bit more. I just want to jump back to this first episode when you said your parents, first of all, did recognize it was a problem, and how did they handle that first one when they realized it was a real thing? The second time they're kind of now know we got to send him off. We need to do something. That first time, what was it like for them?
I think they were terrified. They didn't know what to do. They hadn't experienced it as my older brother. Neither my mother or father had really experienced it for their own personal. So it was something new, and they didn't really know how to deal with it. And I can kind of go back to the stigma of it all. It's like they were scared to really acknowledge it as well. They were kind of scared to acknowledge that there was something really, really going on. And it had a lot to do with the stigma. I mean, they did everything they could, and God bless, they were incredible. They did so much for me. But I could tell that there was no handbook for what to do on this. They had no idea.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that. I feel like in my own story, it kind of like echoes that. I had a little bit of self-harm in late high school too, mid high school. And that was kind of like the first that my parents realized that there was some mental health discrepancies happening in my life. And I think they too were so surprised, and it was something that maybe they hadn't been through before. And I felt like they were really at a loss at first as to what to do. Like, what is the parent who's never had to go through this before? Like, what exactly is the right thing to do? What's going to be the best for your child? How do you handle your own emotions of like knowing that your child is going through something so intense that this is how they feel they need to handle it? Like, there's a lot of emotions there that they too are then, need to go through. And I think I talk about this in mine, like, maybe their response wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear or exactly what I needed at the time, but they were doing their best. Like that was what they had. That was what they, I think your parents with this suggestion to do this was like really, obviously in the end, very beneficial for you. Something that I'm sure you're grateful to them for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, it took me a long time to empathize with my parents.
Yes.
And to be like, yeah, like you did what you could, and I get it now. It took a long time to get to that point.
It's a very gray area. There is no obvious answer. It's not like you break an arm and it's like, go put a cast on. It's not like that. It's like, and it's like breaking your arm as a caveman. It's like, there isn't a doctor to go to. You don't really know what's going on. There's no x-ray. It's like, I can't figure out what's going on. I've never seen this. What do I do? It's terrifying. And I empathize with them well. I'm like, I didn't realize this, but looking back, it's like, this is not an easy thing for anybody around you to go through either.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, these things happen and we have no clue how to understand. I think most of us, when we start like that mental health career, have just no concept of what's actually happening to us.
Right.
We convince ourselves that we're still going to be okay, and this just happens to everybody, which even if it does happen to everybody, it doesn't make it that we can't try and help it or fix it, right?
Or the opposite. With me happened is I thought that nobody went through it, so I denied it. When I thought of mental health, when I thought of depression, I thought of somebody wearing dark makeup and crying all the time. I didn't think of a normal person just having a chemical imbalance. That didn't occur to me.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings up, like, I love the way you said, my family has a history of mental health. People don't really think of mental health as something that kind of works its way through our genetics. But it absolutely, like you said, it's a chemical imbalance. And it is extremely possible to get this chemical imbalance to pass along, depending on exactly. So you said you got medication and it didn't really work, or at least it didn't work for you. But at that time, you had not had really any episodes, and the self-harm had not happened. So how did you end up getting to that medication?
So I was on the medication from, I think, 10th grade on, and the self-harm happened at 12th grade. I want to say that I almost want to say that I learned about mental health in high school, in a class, in like a health class. And I was kind of sitting in the class and they were talking about it, like, this is what depression is. And I'm sitting there going, check, check, check. And I'm like, So if I remember correctly, I believe I told either my mother, my father, or maybe even my doctor. But it was kind of on my mind. I was kind of like, I think this is something I go through. But then after I put that out there and they put me on medication, I kind of stopped wanting to deal with it. And as I'm sure we all know, different medications work for different people. I didn't want to go through that process. I was kind of already tired of thinking about it. And so I just kind of nodded my head and said, yes, this is fine. This is working. And that kind of brings me up on another topic. I sometimes think the medication system is a little flawed, because somebody like me, you're asking somebody who is depressed how they feel. And if they're anything like me, they don't really want to deal with it. So my answer was just, yes, great, fine. But in reality, that wasn't the case at all. There's no real way to tell from an outside source if the medication is really working. And in my case, it might have been doing the opposite. But I just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, you figure, I mean, it's easier than actually thinking about it on a constant basis, right?
Right, and having all these conversations and, okay, fine, put me on the next medication, and then let's try this for 2 months, and let's go to this one. And I just kind of wanted to ignore it all, and I was like, I'm fine.
When you were in 10th grade, then were you going to regular therapy sessions, or
was it was not very often. And I actually remember pretty much just lying to the therapist because I just didn't want to deal with it. I was just like, yeah, I'm good. Can I go home? And it was just like, I just said what he wanted to hear, which is actually what I did in Wilderness. when they were going to let me go. And then one of the therapists was like, wait a second, I call bullshit. And they were spot on. But
I mean, I think a lot of what we do is not really, I don't like to call it lying. I think a lot of it is omitting information. Like when you're dealing with this, when you talk with your therapist, like I'm not there to, I haven't spoke to a therapist in a while, but when I was, like, I wasn't lying to them, but I sure wasn't giving them the whole story.
well, you kind of
I was
bend it a little bit.
Yeah, you bend it, you work, or like for some people, maybe they work their way to that. And that's the beauty of having a good therapist. So it just works for different people, different ways. So I want to jump over to this. I'm kind of throwing all over the mat, but I want to jump over to this manic session. So this is your first and only, correct?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, first known one, at least one that you can get an idea, have an idea of what's happening.
Most significant.
Okay, so I know someone who got into PA school. He just started PA school, and it just became a nightmare for him, constantly working, and it just turned into a similar situation where I don't think he had as much of a past, but he started not sleeping. He started, panicking about just about anything that comes up, and even whether it's school or not. For you, did you feel like school played a role in this session, or was it being away from home? Do you have any idea of kind of what brought it about?
School hadn't even started yet.
Okay.
Well, take that back. It was like the first week of school. I got there about 5 days before classes started. I went to like one class that year. Mine was, I don't really know what brought it on, but it was just kind of the excitement of it all. I pretty much went from like sleeping 16 hours a day to being the life of the party for 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And all of my friends from college still like, yeah, you were all over the place. Like, you couldn't sit still. You couldn't stop partying, basically. Like, I was just like everywhere. I was just it was honestly, it was a high. Like, when my parents came, I was like, I don't want to leave. Like, this is great. Like, I am on top of the world right now. Like, and what brought it on is probably just the fact that I changed the scenery, and it was like, I can go back to college and do whatever I want again. And I don't know. I don't even know if I planned on going to classes that semester. Like, I signed up for them, but I was just so uninvolved with the actual academic part. I was just like, I'm just going to do this and this and this. And school was nowhere in that picture.
Wow.
Is college where the transition, because you said you were quiet as a kid. When did the transition change to you being this outgoing person? Was it college? That beginning?
Probably college.
That week? That first week?
Like reinventing yourself.
Kind of. Because my first semester at college, I wasn't manic, I would say, but I was definitely kind of all over the place because it kind of felt like a fresh start for me. Mm-hmm. I was kind of trying to leave the whole mental health problems behind. So it's kind of like, I went to school in Boston, so I went pretty far away, and it was kind of like, I can just restart and pretend none of that ever happened, which clearly wasn't the case.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'd like to kind of go more into this like wilderness trip, because I would like to know, I mean, obviously, right, they remove you from everything, but what do you think specifically that they removed you from made it better? And then also the people in there, did you meet with them? Did you talk with them regularly? Did sharing those stories back and forth help?
So the wilderness could have gone one of two ways. And luckily for me, it went the right way. But you're in a group with anywhere from 1 to 10 other patients, guys and girls, and probably about 4 or 5 staff, and you meet with a therapist once a week. But all of these staff were also kind of therapists. And for me, what happened is, when I first got there, my first, I'd say 45 days, I was kind of able to tell everybody what I wanted to hear, both within like my group mates, as well as my guides, as well as the therapist, just kind of I was able to just tell them what I knew they wanted to hear in a pretty manipulative way. I'm kind of like, all right, I can pick up what you want to hear and what you want me to learn. Great. I will kind of fake my way to edging closer to that so you believe it. And luckily, they were all going to let me out. And it wasn't until we had a staff change and we got one new staff that kind of looked at me funny like the first day, and he was like, you're like full of it. And he kind of pushed my buttons that entire week and kind of got me a little more riled up than I normally would have, because he was calling me out on everything. And he just purposely made my life very difficult because I was kind of skating along. He made it difficult. And then when I met with a therapist, I kind of blew up, and she could kind of see like, wait a second, this whole image you've had the last 45 days is not real. And so I honestly am pretty thankful for this one guide who was just like, I can see through you and I'm going to make you pop. And he did. And I probably would have been out at day 50, but he made my life hell and made me get through the rough stuff. So
damn,
it was really helpful, because you're basically out walking on a hike and you can just talk to a therapist all day.
So what do you think it was about this wilderness, like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a retreat or like a
wilderness therapy, I think they call it.
Wilderness therapy. So like, what about the wilderness therapy ultimately did it for you? Like, or was it a combination of everything? But like, do you attribute the success to nature, or would you say it's like more so the human connection of it, or
all of the above?
Yeah.
So it worked for me because I first off just love nature. So that's kind of a place that I'm able to relax in. But the concept, I think, is really smart, because a lot of things that you get anxious about, like emails and tests or work or relationships, all of this stuff just kind of gets taken away. So the other really good thing about it is you kind of get to work on your medication without extra stresses. I mean, your stresses are basically, did I pack up my stuff from the last campsite? What's for lunch and what's for dinner? That's it. Like, other than that, you just hike. So it's just so much time to like really dig into yourself and kind of like think through everything.
Yeah. I imagine reintegrating into society was a little bit jarring then to come back.
Which is why they require you to go to an aftercare program, because they realize you're going to be kind of a weirdo after literally not seeing a car for 3 months.
Yeah.
So, and also how to use those skills.
Right. Oh, wow.
So how long ago did you leave this?
That was 9 years ago. I was there 2011, like right now.
9 years. And you seem to have seen some success. Obviously, haven't had any sort of manic episode since. Is there stuff you still do constantly?
I still go through it a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, a lot of this chemical imbalance, you can't always get away from it. But are you doing things that you learned from it, or are there things that you do now and have done for the last 9 years that have been helpful for you?
Absolutely. One thing that has really stuck is working out, exercise. I've basically turned myself into like, this is a necessity. I will wake up. I mean, I woke up at 3:45 this morning to make sure that I got a bike ride in before I went to my photo shoot. Like it's ingrained to me like a meal. Like, if I don't,
one through Central Park.
Yeah. I was in the park this morning. But I'm like, if I don't work out, I can't. It's as essential as a meal for me. And I've learned over the past 9 years how amazing exercise is. Another really important thing I've learned is writing. And I tell people this all the time. I'm like, if you're going through something, write. And I write in a way where it's like I'm talking to myself. And it's like you can kind of be your own therapist in a way. It's like a lot of times in my own therapy, I'll talk to a therapist and they won't have to say anything. I'll just keep talking, and then I'll kind of figure it out myself because I'm putting it all out there and I can just hear it. And so I'm like, just write more. I just feel like that's so important to write things. Write the good things in the day. Write the bad things. If you're getting anxiety, write it out. It's amazing what things look like on paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the beauty of that is so we've had a decent amount of guests kind of come on, and we've heard different stories, and we've had one recently who was bipolar, and she has a book out that's called Letters to My Bipolar Self. And these are two extremely different mental illnesses, but you guys still take similar, routes to trying to keep yourself sane at times. And then on the other hand, you have the exercise that comes into it. And we've had guests on that say they throw themselves into exercise. So no matter how different these stories are, like a lot of these things that people do can, jump from person to person. So with the exercising, you were already probably doing a lot of exercising before this.
Ish. I was, don't get me wrong, but it was in high school, so it was more forced. It was like team sports stuff. And then once high school ended, not much. Once I got out of the wilderness, though, I was able to make the connection that all of this hiking every day was really beneficial for me. And maybe 2 years after the wilderness, I kind of decided I want to be done with my medications because I just didn't really like the way they worked with me. And my therapist at the time was like, you know what to do, just work out more. Because he could kind of tell that's what kind of works for me. And I've been off medications for 6 years now, and I've really just made it like a daily medication to go to the gym or go for a bike ride, or if I can't, do a 5-minute ab workout and some push-ups, like just anything. And that's been like my savior, really.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So for, I guess what we can talk about now is like this stigma that kind of brought you to the point where you couldn't tell anybody, and seeing if there's any way that we as individuals and just as society can kind of lower this stigma. I'm sure you have ideas on this, as you've been now trying to do it for 7 or 8 years. But is there anything you think that we could be doing as people just to lower the stigma of talking about mental health?
I think you just said it. I think that is one of the biggest things, to talk about it. This was the first time I shared my story publicly. Because,
really?
Yes. So I have felt the stigma for the last 6 years. I came to New York without really telling anybody why I was in Utah. And people asked me, I would just tell them I was there for school and just kind of drop the conversation. I didn't really want to go through the whole process of telling what was going on and have any judgment. I didn't want any of that. And in a way, I felt trapped anytime somebody would ask me. And so going back to why I shared this, one of my cycling brands that I work very closely with, a company called Black Sheep Cycling, an Australian brand, does a yearly event called the Man Ride. And the purpose of it is to create more conversation with men's mental health. Because so many men struggle to share how they feel. And that was me spot on. And so they sent me an email asking if I want to be a part of it 4 weeks ago. And I kind of got this shower. I was in the shower, honestly, and I was like, I should go back to Utah and bike from Salt Lake to Moab and finally expose the story, because my whole thought was, I'll raise some money, sure. But the real goal I had was to show people that we all go through it, and to really just kind of invite others to see me as not the glitz and glamour that is Instagram or my modeling portfolio, but I've gone through it as well. And kind of the whole hope with that is that the more people realize that it's a normal thing, the more we can invite people to talk about it. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing to be in a world where when you don't feel good, when you are depressed, you can just go tell somebody, hey, I feel depressed. Like, I'm not feeling good. Like, I'm down. Like, wouldn't that just be amazing? Instead of sitting in your room, like, just feeling down, to be able to feel comfortable to go tell somebody how you feel, like, that is a dream world to me. And I feel like to do that, you need to break the stigma and make that an open thing where people can go talk about how they feel.
Yeah. And I think that's like a trickle down effect. I think more and more adults are sort of realizing that this is okay, but I still think younger adults or, adolescents into children, it's still, and I think it's the nature of schools and how kids are and they're mean. But I think it has to do with that. But I mean, it's still, I think therein lies a huge problem where it's the kids that are turning into the adolescents, that are turning into the adults that aren't aware of like that, just being able to say like, hey, I need help. Hey, I don't feel good. Like, I feel something's wrong, like without being able to say that. And I think hopefully through like this new wave of sharing mental health stories within people our age or like adults, that will have some sort of trickle down effect into the schools, because I think ultimately that's where the biggest change will occur, is if kids can feel that way, to be able to take those feelings and sort of like start it there to become adults that don't have to sort of explore this later on in life, that they can handle it in the more adolescent stage. And I think that's really what, like, I think Peaks has said this, like really what our hope is that a younger crowd does listen to this too, because we want them to feel more comfortable in sharing their mental health stories, or to maybe not sharing their stories, but just to like talk. Yeah.
It's a sickness. I see it as a sickness. It's like having a cold. It's like you have the flu. You're going to tell somebody you have the flu. A flu is much more obvious that you have the flu, but I don't know. I just think it'd be amazing to be able to share it like more of just a condition, like a sickness.
I would agree completely. It makes me kind of wonder, because obviously for you, your family knew a lot about it, and a lot of it happened in high school and college for you. And it sounds like most of your friends didn't know anything about it. Like the self-harm, did anybody know about that for you guys? For either of the two of you?
Quite hidden. I mean, when I released the story a couple weeks ago, I had so many people from high school reach out and say, wow, I had no idea. Because I just kind of told everybody a story that I got sick, and this was all bandaged up. I wore a long sleeve. You couldn't see it. And I went with that story for a long time. Even on photo shoots over the past 6 years, when the scars would be seen in a photo and they'd go, oh my God, what happened? I would say, oh, I fell and broke my fall through a piece of glass with my arm. And everybody believed it, but it wasn't true at all. And I felt like shit every time I said that, because I'm like, that's not true. And it made me feel bad that I wasn't able to share how I was actually doing.
Yeah, like that's an insane thing to have to lie about. But most people would, I think.
Yeah.
Sarah, what about you? I don't know if we really got into this on your episode. Did a lot of people know?
I don't think anyone really knew besides my parents, because I told them. Especially with like OCD and stuff like that. Like, I think like what Kevin said, I didn't think that was something that other kids were experiencing. Like, I didn't think that other kids were like having these obsessions with like numbers and like all these like weird things. I thought that was only like something strange going on inside my mind. So like, I didn't want to bring that up to anyone because I felt like that would be very ostracizing. So I didn't. And I mean, now I understand that that's like a literal thing. It's an actual illness. It's a disease. But like, I mean, then I had no idea. So it's just like, it was better to just keep it quiet.
Sure.
Yeah.
I tried to keep mine quiet, but I had too much blood loss. I had to go to the hospital. I tried actually going to school, and it was actually my stepmother who noticed that I was not even like walking correct.
Wow.
So it was like, what's going on? And it couldn't be hidden because it was everywhere. But yeah, no, even I tried to hide it after the fact. I was like, I don't want this to be known.
Mm-hmm. Wow. How does it feel to you now that your story is out there more and people that you knew in high school are reaching out to you? Like, does that feel
so good?
Yeah.
I could literally cry. Like, it feels so good. Like, I feel like free for the first time, like ever. Like, I feel like this huge chapter of my life that I have like tucked away forever is finally in the open. And it feels amazing to me just to be able to be more honest about it.
Yeah.
But also the responses that I've gotten from everybody, I'm touched by like what people have said to me and how people have going through it as well. And it's just like, I can't believe it took me so long to finally do this, because I seriously, I feel free. Like, I feel like I've completed my mental health circle where I've gone through so much and now it's time to like give back.
I like that imagery.
Yeah, I feel felt the exact same way when I kind of put together Sharin Stories, because it was also the first time I was kind of going out there for anybody. And I think a lot of people just view, whoever they are as sometimes as this bubbly, fun person. I'm rather social, I think, though I don't love to be. But I seem to be a lot of times. And like putting this out there kind of was like, okay, maybe we didn't know him as well as we should have. We don't have to back up. Like, I now feel a lot more relaxed when I'm just meeting with people, and when people are, coming out and talking to me and saying good things about me. I no longer look at it as like, look, I wasn't doing something that I thought was awesome or cool. I was just doing something that I felt was nice for me. And it really turned out to be that. And then when these two reached out, I felt like we were doing something awesome and cool, but like just getting that story out there, you just gets a sense of relief.
Yes.
That's it. Relief. Once, you're just relaxed.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It does. For people, well, I mean, for people who don't, it's hard to feel relaxed, it is. And for once, that's what kind of it does for you, I think, getting that word out there.
I can go through my dating life, and every time that I had to kind of bring up why I was actually in Utah, because I'm not going to keep that live in dating, but it would kind of ease into it. It was stressful. I was thinking like, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? And I guess dating has kind of helped me realize nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but nobody actually cares. Like, everybody has their own things. It's all okay.
I think it's actually a positive. Vulnerability can be attractive, I think,
Yeah.
It shows an opportunity to be able to empathize with others. And I think it's something that most people look for these days.
One of my favorite things that's been the response to when I tell them this big story is, that's it? And I'm like, really? You're not like going to run away? Like, no, you're fine. Like,
you like build up the suspense.
They're just like, that's what you're going to tell me. Like, okay.
Right. I mean, now that your story's out there, it seems that, I mean, I had the impression that who you were in Utah, who you were in Boston, who you were in New York, like maybe these people at certain times were different people, or like different, maybe you had different stories at different times, or you were covering different things at different times. And when you move a lot, you have an opportunity many times to sort of cover your past up in like various ways, and become the person that maybe you think this time around, this is what I want to like say, this is who I want to be, like, this is what I'm going to do. So I think now that you're in New York and you seem to be, like you said, like coming around this mental health circle, I'm really interested to see like, like how you're going to, further use your story for good and influence others.
I agree. I mean, I feel like I'm my most authentic self right now.
Yeah, your most authentic self. I feel that's awesome.
Everywhere else, it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to be this Kevin. I'm going to be this Kevin. And it's like, no, now I'm just Kevin. And it feels good.
Don't matter where you are anymore. That is nice. That's a nice feeling to have. That was a big thing for me. Is like, I just felt like I put a persona on for each person. And then when I finally made a big move was like the first time I kind of was like, wait a second. Why did I just put that persona on for literally the first 22 years of my life? I can just be me and see what happens. And if the people that don't like me, that's fine. I'm still me. But the people who like me,
don't want them in your life.
Exactly. Now I got my people that like me.
Is Korea the peaks you are today? Like, is like that sort of you, like who you came back with?
No. I was still different there. I
So
still
I've
came because
never seen the real authentic Peaks in all these years.
No, because I still came home and like friends still didn't really understand and friends didn't really know me, but I'm still hanging out with these people.
These people.
All right, like, and
Yeah,
girl, you're right.
I
I
know
still
those
had those
people.
problems. I didn't feel them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you know.
Okay. Are those
But the
people
point is, I
listening to
just
this?
like, but the point is, I still kind of reverted back to, you know, my normal. But now I am a lot more willing to be like, no, I don't agree with this, or no, I don't want to go to this. It sounds like shit. Like, you know, I don't show up to half our events because I just don't want it.
I threw a party and Peaks literally didn't come. So it was a really nice one too. We got like catering, like it was like
I don't know what to tell you.
Peaks didn't come.
All right, I'll show up next time for him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Wait, where's the catering from?
Peaks is like, thanks in advance.
It depends who the catering's from, though.
It was from a hot dog and hamburger place. It was very, very good. We had chicken sandwiches.
Buffalo hot dog hamburger place. Not too bad. But either way, I had some hot dogs and hamburgers at my house after it.
Yeah, you guys got all the leftovers. Okay, we've just blabbered for like 20 minutes.
Let's get off of our Saturday nights and get back to Kevin. So Kevin, we don't have a lot of time left. I want to hear kind of what the next, 6 months might look for you, and anything you want to plug right now that is going on right now for you. So
next 6 months, honestly, I don't know. For like the first time in a while, I feel like I'm more free to kind of go do whatever I want. I don't know why that I feel like that, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll move somewhere. Maybe I'll go to the West Coast. I don't know. I don't know what the next couple months are going to be. I'm working with a few more people for mental health. I'm working with Movember next month, which is funny because I don't know if you can see, but nothing grows here. So it's not going to be very interesting. But
tough job for Movember. But yeah, anyway.
I don't know. I'm excited about the next few months, I guess. I'm kind of excited how things play out. I feel, like I said earlier, like my most authentic self, and I don't know. I'm excited to see what the most authentic Kevin does with his time now.
Well, I'm excited to see it as well.
Find you. Do you have any socials you want to plug in that so people can find out how you're doing in your mental health journey?
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is probably the best way to find me, which is at Kevin Hubsmith, which is KevinHubsmith. I try and keep a pretty good diary of both so I actually made a few highlights showing, first off, my story, kind of slideshow basically of what my campaign was for cycling the face of mental health. And then I show my 3 days cycling, which was also pretty fun if you guys haven't seen it.
I'm taking a peek. It's a good time. I also will say, anybody who's watching, remember, we brought it up at the beginning, there is a naked picture of him on a bike. So if you like what you see, jump over to that Instagram.
We were in the desert and it was like, you know what? I'm gonna ride my bike naked.
I imagine that's not very comfortable.
Surprisingly, it wasn't that bad.
All right.
I was good too. And then I just kind of kept going. And my buddies were like, where's he going? And I'm like,
just biking. I'm just biking.
I hope you
I'm just free. I wore a helmet though.
That's what's important. Cover the important stuff.
Safety first. Safety first. Breeze second.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, Kevin, we really appreciate you coming on. I had a good time, and I'm really excited that we were the first person that you shared really the full story with, because I didn't know that was the case. So look forward to that. This will not be coming out for at least a month and a half, probably right now. So it may be a little bit till your story really gets out there, but I'm sure in the meantime you'll be doing some pretty awesome stuff, and I'm excited to kind of keep along with that. So thank you so much for coming on, and all of our
Thank you,
listeners. Give Kevin a shout out, follow him on Instagram, and also make sure you follow us as well, and do anything with our like and subscribe button on YouTube. So thank you so much, and have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.